The story follows the lives of 3 independent women who are all staring down the barrel of their 30th birthdays. Even though society tries to label them as old-fashioned or outdated, these ladies aren't letting the noise stop them from becoming the absolute best versions of themselves. We've got Ji-won, a successful webtoon artist, A-young, a restaurant owner, and Ron-ju, a famous announcer. The drama kicks off with a heated debate between Ji-won and her editor Yoon over the finale of Ji-won's webtoon, Psychotic Bride. Ji-won's vision for the ending is pretty dark. The bride catches the groom cheating and literally takes him out right there at the wedding. But Yoon is not having it. She thinks it's way too gruesome, especially since they have younger readers to think about. Ji-won stands her ground, arguing that the ending needs to be impactful and leave a mark. Yoon fires back, saying that young people nowadays just don't do crazy like that anymore. She claims they value their freedom and would just break up quietly if they caught someone cheating. Then, Yoon drops the ultimate low blow. She tells Ji-won she's too old to understand how Gen Z loves. Ji-won is absolutely shook by that comment. When her besties, A-young and Ron-ju, hear about it, they're just as offended on her behalf. But even though they think the remark was totally out of line, they can't run away from the cold, hard truth. They're officially standing on the doorstep of 30. The argument ends with Ji-won throwing a tantrum and threatening to go on strike and not draw the final chapter. Yoon starts panicking, worried about the backlash from angry readers if the update is late. But Ji-won doesn't care. She starts spinning around in her office chair like a pouty child. But then crack, she suddenly throws her neck out. She ends up collapsed on the floor in pain, begging Yoon to rush her to the hospital. After the checkup, the two head to a cafe to talk business. On the way, Ji-won spots a flyer for a webtoon contest for new writers. It takes her straight down memory lane to when she first started out and entered a contest just like that. Time really flies now. She's a household name and a wildly successful author. While Ji-won is lost in thought staring at the poster, Yoon snaps her back to reality. She tells Ji-won that the new manager at the publishing house has handpicked one of her older works, like a watercolor painting, to be published. Suddenly, Ji-won gets a major case of the cringes. That story was basically her personal diary about her very first love. Reading back those innocent, sappy lines from her past makes her want to curl up and hide. She can't believe she ever wrote something so extra and sentimental. But Yoon thinks the story is a masterpiece and calls up the new manager right then and there. When Ji-won overhears the manager's name, her heart stops. It's Seung-yoo, the exact same name as her first love. She tries to brush it off, telling herself it's just a common name and there's no way it's actually him. But the memories of her teenage years start flooding back. On her bus ride home, she sees a pair of high schoolers. The girl falls asleep and her head starts nodding off to the side, so the boy gently uses his hand to support her head. It's a total deja vu moment for Ji-won. Seung-yoo used to do the exact same thing for her. Remembering that pure, innocent love fills her with a strange sense of longing and regret. Later that night, Ji-won meets up for drinks with A-young and Ron-ju. Of course, they start teasing her about her first love. Ji-won tries to defend it as a beautiful memory, but Ron-ju shuts her down real quick, calling it nothing more than middle school kid stuff. Ron-ju gives them a reality check. They're 30 now. It's time for real-world dating, not dreaming about storybook romances. Ji-won tries to argue back, saying, hey, stories are usually inspired by real life. But honestly, no one is listening to her. The conversation then shifts to Ron-ju, and Ah-young doesn't hold back. She points out how ironic it is that Ron-ju is a famous announcer, yet she's incredibly blunt, rude, and get this, actually suffers from stage fright. It just doesn't add up. Ron-ju immediately claps back, saying she actually feels more sorry for Ah-young. Why? Because Ah-young's boyfriend of 9 years dumped her for some girl he'd only known for 3 months. Talk about a low blow. Ah-young hangs her head in sadness, realizing that none of the 3 have been successful in love. It's like they're magnets for toxic, trash guys. To shake off the gloom, the trio decides to forget the past and just lose themselves in drinks, karaoke, and dancing. But what they don't realize is that a mysterious man is watching them from above the whole time. When the party finally ends, the 3 friends return to their own worlds. Each carries a hidden pain that just won't go away, and they all try to give themselves a little pep talk. Ron-ju hopes she can stick to her decision to stay single forever. Ah-young is determined to erase every single trace of her ex after 9 long years. Meanwhile, Ji-won just hopes she won't lose her way on the path ahead. When they're together, they're the happy trio, but the moment they're apart, the loneliness really sinks in. The next day, Ji-won goes to meet the new manager, and it turns out her hunch was right. It really is her first love. Seeing Seung-yoo again after 15 years leaves Ji-won completely stunned, but also low-key happy. At the welcome dinner for Seung-yoo, Ji-won finds herself second-guessing everything. She wonders if she has the wrong person, because Seung-yoo acts like he doesn't even recognize her. But soon, that mystery is solved. After dinner, Ji-won is about to head home when the sky suddenly opens up. It's pouring rain, she doesn't have an umbrella, and she's stuck waiting at the door. Suddenly, Seung-yoo appears behind her with an umbrella in hand. The very first thing he says to her is, "Ji-won, I really missed you." As their eyes meet, all those old feelings come rushing back, and the air is suddenly filled with this sweet, romantic tension. They head back to a pub to keep talking. Seung-yoo explains that of course he remembers her because she was so adorable. They start talking shop, and Ji-won mentions she became a webtoon artist because of her talent for drawing. Seung-yoo then drops a bombshell. He didn't just end up as her manager by chance. He specifically wanted to be in charge of her work. He even admits he knows that the story, like a watercolor painting, is actually about the two of them. Ji-won gets super shy and tries to deny it, but Seung-yoo has already done his homework. He points out that the male lead's name, Seung-won, is literally a combination of Seung-yoo and Ji-won. Caught in the act and totally embarrassed, Ji-won makes up a lame excuse, saying she just really likes an actor named Seung-won. Seeing how flustered she is, Seung-yoo teases her even more. They end up laughing and joking like they're best friends again. Seung-yoo tells her how lucky he feels to have found her again. Even after all these years apart, they still have this amazing chemistry. The next morning at work, Seung-yoo can't stop smiling as he remembers their conversation at the pub. His colleague, Yoon, notices him grinning at his desk and assumes he's just reading a really good script. Flustered, Seung-yoo plays along, saying the script he's reading, which happens to be Ji-won's, is indeed fantastic. Yoon agrees. She loves the story too, though she mentions that the male lead's personality feels a bit unpredictable. Seung-yoo just smiles and says he thinks the female lead's thoughts are the ones that are hard to read. Yoon is a bit surprised by his take, putting it down to a gender difference in perspective, not suspecting a thing. Then, Yoon shares some massive news. Ji-won's webtoon, Psychotic Bride, has just received an offer to be adapted into a movie. Sensing a chance to see Ji-won again, Seung-yoo jumps at the opportunity and volunteers to go tell her the news personally. He tries calling her, but she's out for a jog and doesn't pick up. Instead of waiting, Seung-yoo goes straight to Ji-won's house to wait for her. When Ji-won finally gets back, she's absolutely shocked to find him standing right there. As soon as Ji-won hears the news that her webtoon is getting a big screen movie adaptation, she loses all her chill. She's so hyped that she literally jumps into Seung-yoo's arms for a massive hug. But a second later, the oops moment hits her. Feeling totally embarrassed, she quickly pulls away and dashes inside to change. She goes all out, picking a stunning outfit and doing her makeup like she's headed for a real date, even if she won't admit it. They end up at a quiet, low-key restaurant for a celebratory dinner. During the meal, Seung-yoo drops a truth bomb. He says he knows the male lead in her story is based on him because the drawing looks exactly like him, right down to his fashion sense. Ji-won, caught in her feelings, tries to play it off. She claims she just used the famous actor Seung-won as her inspiration, but Seung-yoo keeps teasing her relentlessly until Ji-won finds it impossible to keep lying. She finally cracks and admits there might be a slight resemblance. To get back at him, Ji-won teases him, saying he's still got the same childish personality from high school, basically calling him a little boy. Seung-yoo is not a fan of being called a kid. He suddenly stands up, leans in super close, and traps her in this intense, awkward romantic tension. But just as the air gets heavy, his phone starts buzzing, totally killing the mood. Seung-yoo just brushes Ji-won's hair gently and silences the call. It's clear he doesn't want to be disturbed. Ji-won, confused, asks why he did that, and he just says he wanted to see her reaction. Then he drops a line that leaves her spinning. "Don't let your boyfriend guess what's on your mind." Ji-won is left speechless. Wait, did he just call himself her boyfriend? Meanwhile, Ron-ju is finding herself in a very similar situation, literally pinned against a wall by a younger guy. Here's the tea. Ron-ju was supposed to go on a blind date with a 35-year-old lawyer, but the guy was too busy and sent his younger brother, Jun-young, to fill in. Ron-ju figures out the swap almost instantly, but decides to roll with it. Jun-young, however, commits to the bit, insisting he's the actual date and that he just looks young for his age. Ron-ju decides to put this kid to the test. She drags him to A-young's restaurant and proceeds to order the most expensive items on the menu, along with a pricey bottle of wine. A-young pulls Ron-ju aside, low-key judging her for being so hard on the guy, but Ron-ju says she has her reasons. Outside, Jun-young is sweating bullets over the bill. Finally, he breaks and confesses that he's not the lawyer. Instead of being mad, Ron-ju handles it like a boss and pays the whole tab. The two keep the drinks flowing at the restaurant until they are both totally hammered. Jun-young ends up taking Ron-ju to a nearby hotel, and in a drunken blur, things get, well, very steamy. He pins her against the wall, and they end up spending a romantic night together. On the other side of town, A-young is closing up when she spots her ex-boyfriend watching her from a bridge. It hits her all at once. Every cigarette butt she's been finding in front of her shop belonged to him. The realization hits her like a ton of bricks. Overwhelmed and troubled, A-young decides to shut down the shop and completely vanishes into thin air. The next morning, Ranju wakes up in a hotel bed, alone. She realizes her clothes are off and desperately tries to piece together the night before, but the alcohol has completely wiped her memory. Confused and a bit embarrassed, she heads to the restaurant to talk to A-young, only to find a closed sign hanging on the door. Now Ranju is seriously worried. She's known A-young for years and knows she's a total workaholic. A-young never closes shop unless something major is going down. Ranju peeks inside. Nothing. She tries calling, but A-young isn't picking up. Since Ranju has to get to the studio for her TV show, she passes the baton to a half-asleep Ji-won, giving her the mission to find A-young ASAP while she heads to work. Right after that, Ranju rushes off to work. But while she's trying to prep for her TV show, her phone buzzes with a call from a random number. She picks up, and her heart nearly stops when she realizes it's the young guy from the night before. He's calling just to wish her a good morning. Totally flustered, Ranju hangs up immediately, face-palming as she realizes she actually gave him her number during their drunken escapade. Meanwhile, Ji-won is starting to spiral because finding A-young is turning out to be a lot harder than she thought. However, she has a meeting at the publishing office to discuss the movie adaptation, so she's forced to put her search on hold. When she walks into the office, she bumps into Seung-yoo checking some documents in the hallway. But instead of the warm vibe from the night before, he's totally cold. He calls her author So super formal and treats her with nothing but professional distance. This sudden 180 leaves Ji-won feeling incredibly awkward and, honestly, pretty annoyed. To make matters worse, the meeting is a disaster. The film producers keep trashing her script, calling it way too horror-heavy and demanding she change the vibe. Ji-won tries to fight back, but she eventually has to bite her tongue and give in. By the time the meeting ends, she's feeling miserable. Seung-yoo tries to invite her to dinner, but Ji-won shuts him down hard. She keeps it cold and businesslike, telling him they're just colleagues and there's no reason for them to meet privately. This rejection leaves Seung-yoo completely confused. He even wonders if she's acting this way because she has a boyfriend, but Ji-won doesn't explain, she just gives him the cold shoulder. He's left standing there as he lets her take the elevator alone. Ji-won takes a bus straight to A-young's restaurant, hoping she's back, but the shop is still empty except for Ranju, who's also there waiting. As the two of them are trying to figure out where A-young could be, her ex-boyfriend suddenly shows up. The moment Ranju sees him, she snaps. She loses all control, marches right up to him, and starts whacking him over the head with her handbag. After the chaos, the two of them rush out to find A-young, terrified that seeing her ex might have pushed her over the edge. On the way, they start reminiscing about A-young's 9-year relationship. They were college sweethearts, a love that everyone thought would last forever until he betrayed her. Ji-won and Ranju are more worried than ever. Finally, they track her down at a campsite on the outskirts of the city. A-young is just sitting there by a campfire, drinking her feelings away. She drops the tea. Apparently, the other woman who ruined her relationship just got married, so now the ex-boyfriend has the audacity to come back and beg for a second chance. He even had the nerve to say he couldn't live without her. Ji-won and Ranju go off, trashing the guy and calling him the ultimate scumbag. A-young then makes a declaration. She's done being the good girl who gets cheated on. She's determined to be a bad girl from now on. The three friends burst out laughing and decide to form their own Bad Girls Queen Club. They spend the rest of the night drinking, laughing, and just being there for each other. Later that night, after A-young and Ranju pass out from the drinks, Ji-won tucks them into the tent and goes to sit by the fire alone. As she watches the flames, she starts thinking about her run-in with Seung-yoo earlier that day. She feels a wave of regret for being so cold and for not explaining things clearly. After some soul-searching, she decides to pick up her phone and call him. She's ready to clear up the misunderstanding and let him know once and for all that she doesn't have a boyfriend. So, Seung-yoo is driving when he hears Ji-won finally admit she's single, and he can't help but let out this soft, knowing smile. But then, things get awkward fast. When Ji-won asks why he's being so quiet, he reveals that he's actually on speakerphone and he's not alone in the car. Ji-won is absolutely mortified. She wants to crawl into a hole and die after realizing she just broadcasted her private feelings to a total stranger. The next day, she's so cringed out that she doesn't dare to even look at her phone, let alone answer Seung-yoo's calls or texts. Her ghosting starts making Seung-yoo a little suspicious. Later, while Ji-won is at the laundromat, she happens to run into director Cha, the man in charge of her webtoon's movie adaptation. She tries to make small talk, but he's pretty cold and professional. Suddenly, he asks her if the lead couple's first kiss in the story happened in front of a laundromat because he's scouting locations. Ji-won is so embarrassed that she just stammers out that he should probably find a better spot before making a quick exit to avoid more awkwardness. While she's working later that day, Seung-yoo texts her, inviting her to a high school that they're considering as a filming location. Coincidentally, Ji-won was already planning to head there herself, so they decided to go together. The car ride is thick with tension. Ji-won can't stop replaying that embarrassing phone call in her head. To break the ice, Seung-yoo shows her an old photo of them from their middle school days. Seeing how cute she looked 10 years ago makes Ji-won light up like a flower, and the vibe in the car finally shifts from awkward to cozy. They get to the school, and Ji-won is blown away by how much it's changed. Since it's a Saturday, the place is a ghost town. Taking advantage of the security guard being away, they sneak inside to take some souvenir photos and visit their old classroom. To make her laugh, Seung-yoo grabs some chalk and draws a self-portrait of Ji-won. It's so distorted and goofy that she actually bursts out laughing. But then, boom, the security guard's footsteps echo in the hallway. Panic mode sets in. They both scramble to hide under the teacher's desk. In that tiny cramped space, the romantic tension goes through the roof. In the heat of the moment, they realize they've been holding hands tightly. Ji-won shyly pulls her hand away, but as she tries to get up, she whacks her head on the desk. Seung-yoo moves in to help, but he ends up hitting his head too. Later, they head out to the sports field to talk. This time, Seung-yoo isn't asking about her characters, he's curious about her. He asks why she titled her new work like a watercolor painting. Ji-won gives him a heart-to-heart answer. She explains that watercolor spreads so easily that once you start painting, you can't change it, just like her feelings for her first love. She admits that back in high school, she gathered all her courage to write him a love letter, but he rejected her so coldly that she lost the nerve to ever face him again. But Seung-yoo drops a massive truth bomb. It was all a huge misunderstanding. He never intended to reject her. In fact, he didn't even get a chance to finish what he was saying before she got the wrong idea and ran away. Hearing this long overdue explanation finally makes Ji-won feel a sense of relief and joy. In a sudden, bold move, she turns to him and asks, "Do you like me?" Seung-yoo doesn't say a word. Instead, he just stands up and takes her hand. That's when Ji-won goes all in. She looks him in the eye and straight up asks if he wants to spend the night with her. And just like that, they end up sharing a passionate, romantic night together. After the dust settles and the passion fades, Ji-won is tidying herself up, feeling proud that she's finally learned how to express her true feelings. Looking at Seung-yoo sleeping peacefully, she feels like she's on cloud 9. But right at that moment, a woman named Hae-ryung calls Seung-yoo's phone. Ji-won doesn't pick up, but that name on the screen instantly plants a seed of doubt and suspicion in her mind. Despite that mysterious phone call, Ji-won decides not to dig any deeper for now. She just wants to stay in the moment and soak up every bit of this new happiness. The two of them spend the entire night together, and when they finally check out of the hotel the next morning, they're basically in their own little world. The air is thick with romance, and they can't stop teasing and flirting with each other. Everything around them feels a little sweeter. Seung-yoo reaches out to hold her hand as they laugh about the magic of the night before. But while Ji-won is on cloud 9, her best friend Ron-ju isn't having such a smooth time. Ever since her romantic night with Jun-young, she's been a ball of nerves. The guy is blowing up her phone, and even though she's ghosting his calls, Jun-young refuses to back down. He actually takes things to a whole new level by getting a part-time job at A-young's restaurant just so he can be close to her. Ron-ju tries to talk him out of it, telling him to quit because the pay is terrible. But Jun-young has a comeback for everything. He says he's in desperate need of cash, the boss is great, and best of all, he gets a front row seat to see his favorite beautiful customer, meaning Ron-ju. He even tells her she looks stunning that day, leaving her totally flustered as she beats a hasty retreat. Later on, Ji-won, still glowing from her secret romance, heads over to A-young's restaurant, bursting with energy. A-young clocks her weirdly high spirits immediately. Worried that her friend will figure out what happened with Seung-yoo, Ji-won keeps her lips sealed about the romance, and instead drops the big professional news. Her work is officially being turned into a movie. Ji-won suggests throwing a celebration, but Ah-young breaks the news that Ron-ju is actually boycotting the restaurant because of the new part-timer. When Jun-young comes over to introduce himself, Ji-won is initially caught off guard by how incredibly young he looks. But after he serves up some delicious food and cold beer, she's totally sold. She basically gives him her blessing to take care of Ron-ju. While the three of them are vibing over beers, Ron-ju suddenly shows up, surprising everyone. Jun-young doesn't miss a beat. He walks right up to her and says, "I really missed you." He plays it super smooth and polite, leaving the girls to their talk, but not before doing a total cute act and telling Ron-ju to call him anytime if she needs a designated driver. Watching him be so charming, Ji-won and Ah-young are practically squealing with excitement for their friend. Ji-won starts grilling Ron-ju, asking, "How could you possibly let a handsome guy like that be sad?" Ron-ju doesn't answer. Instead, she realizes Ji-won is clearly in love and teases her, saying she must have spent her missing days with a secret man. Ron-ju's intuition is sharp. She correctly guesses it's Seung-yoo and even figures out that they spent the night together. Ji-won is stunned by how accurately Ron-ju called it. But then, the tables turn. Ji-won realizes Ron-ju also had a wild night with Jun-young. Ron-ju tries to deny it with an embarrassed face, but her friends know her too well. They know it's the truth. The three of them drink and gossip until A-young has a few too many and has to head to the restroom. Once they're alone, Ron-ju's playful tone disappears. She gets serious and tells Ji-won she's worried about her getting hurt again. You see, it took Ji-won 2 whole years to get over the trauma of her last breakup. Ranju drops some hard-earned wisdom. A man who makes a woman feel insecure right after they spend the night together is not a good man. When Ji-won finally gets home, Ranju's words are on a loop in her head. She starts spiraling back into the past, remembering her toxic ex-boyfriend. That guy also went completely radio silent after they slept together. He just vanished into thin air, leaving her helpless and completely shattered. A shock she never truly forgot. Ji-won wants to text Seung-yoo, but she just doesn't have the courage. She's terrified of history repeating itself. To stop herself from drowning in her own thoughts and the pain of the past, she decides to go out for a solo walk to clear her head. Even after walking around, Ji-won just can't shake the sadness. But as she stands in front of her house, she finally makes a move and decides to call Seung-yoo. To her surprise, he picks up on the very first ring and gets that he's actually standing right behind her. He tells her she looks beautiful, and the moment Ji-won turns around and sees him, she can't help but break into a massive, happy smile. Internally, she's scolding herself, thinking, I should be mad at him for not calling me for days, but here I am grinning like an idiot. How embarrassing. They start walking together, and Seung-yoo asks why she never reached out. It turns out he had been waiting by his phone for her to call him the whole time. Ji-won is both surprised and deeply touched by how honest he's being. Seung-yoo then gives her a shy confession, and they both start laughing from the sheer awkwardness of the moment. Finally, they decide to make it official they're a couple. The air is suddenly filled with nothing but pure sweetness. Ji-won admits she's been waiting for him to reach out for a long time too, and is just so glad he showed up. Hearing that makes Seung-yoo so happy that he pulls her into a warm back hug. The next day at work, Ji-won is in the best mood ever. She's staring at that old school photo of them and smiling to herself whenever she thinks of him. Suddenly, a notification pops up. It's a text from Seung-yoo. She thinks it's some kind of magic, like he could actually sense she was missing him. But when she opens the message, it's just a boring work text. Her heart sinks and she feels a wave of disappointment. But Ji-won doesn't want her boyfriend to catch on to her mood swings, so she thinks long and hard before sending back a very polite, professional reply. Immediately, Seung-yoo hits her back with a giant heart sticker, and just like that, she's back on cloud 9. She dives into her work, totally immersed in her webtoon. Time flies, and she finally finishes her work for the day. Just as she's about to head home, Seung-yoo calls and asks her to hang out. Ji-won is thrilled, thinking her boyfriend is a mind reader for knowing exactly when she finished. Seung-yoo tells her that because he wanted to spend as much time with her as possible, he'd actually been waiting downstairs at her building for a while. Ji-won thinks to herself, wow, this guy is a total pro at charming women. She's all excited and ready to go, but at the very last second, she cancels the date. Why? Because she hasn't fully healed from her past relationship. Seeing herself so excited triggers a traumatic memory of her ex-boyfriend and the disgusted look he used to give her. He even used to mock her. She's terrified of failing at love again and fears that if she acts too eager, Seung-yoo will get bored or disgusted with her. So she forces herself to turn him down. But as she watches his car drive away, her face is written with pure regret. However, a few seconds later, a text lights up her phone. He's inviting her to a movie after their contract signing tomorrow, and he straight up doesn't give her a chance to say no. Ji-won feels a surge of happiness, realizing she really did find the right guy this time. The next day, Ji-won shows up at the cinema all hyped up, but it turns out this isn't exactly a private date. It's a work scouting event with the entire film crew. They need to watch other school-themed movies for research. Ji-won feels super shy since the director and the whole production team are right there. Luckily, Seung-yoo is smooth. He discreetly arranges their seats away from everyone else so they can have some us time. While the movie is playing, Seung-yoo naturally reaches over and takes her hand. It's such a small gesture, but it hits Ji-won right in the feels. Even though she's 30, she still gets total butterflies from these little romantic moments. She has to keep telling herself to stay calm and not get too worked up. Once the movie ends, Seung-yoo hands Ji-won his car keys and tells her to head to the car and wait for him while he wraps things up with the crew. While waiting in the car, Ji-won realizes her hands are all sticky from some spilled soda. She starts digging around for tissues, but instead, she stumbles upon something that makes her heart drop, a heart-shaped keychain. It's engraved with Seung-yoo's name and another woman's name, Hae-ryung. Instantly, all of Ji-won's insecurities come rushing back. She's hit with a painful flashback of the moment her ex-boyfriend broke up with her, and her mood completely tanks. She doesn't want Seung-yoo to notice she's spiraling, so she quickly hides the keychain right before he gets back into the car. But things only get more awkward from there. Once Seung-yoo is back, he pulls out his phone to show her a date spot he picked out, but right on cue, Hae-ryung calls again. Seung-yoo tells her he's too busy to talk and hangs up, but Ji-won has already connected the dots. This is the same girl from the keychain, and the same one who called him back at the hotel. Seung-yoo stays perfectly calm, but Ji-won is a nervous wreck inside, filled with doubt and anxiety. During their date, Seung-yoo notices she's not herself. He tries to lighten the mood by telling her how much he really likes her, even teasing her about how she always rates everything as just okay. It works for a moment, she actually laughs, but the suspicion is still there, sitting like a heavy stone on her heart. After the date, Ji-won heads to A-young's restaurant to vent. She orders a coffee so insanely strong it's basically 18 regular cups in one, and she downs the whole thing. A-young can tell right away that Ji-won's love life is hitting a rocky patch. Ji-won looks her friend in the eye and asks, "Back then, when your ex was cheating on you, why did you just take it? Why didn't you say anything?" The question hits A-young right where it hurts. Her eyes well up with tears, but she refuses to let them fall. She gives a bitter, honest answer. Sometimes, even if you don't ask, you can see the truth in the way they avoid your eyes. Ji-won knows she's found her answer, but she's not ready to admit it yet. To keep A-young from worrying, she lies and says she's just stressed about work. She then leaves the restaurant and goes for a frantic, intense run, trying to exhaust herself so much that she can just wipe Seung-yoo from her memory. That same night, A-young has her own drama to deal with. Her trashy ex-boyfriend shows up at the restaurant again. This time, the guy is completely shameless. He just sits there and has the nerve to say he misses her. A-young is so angry she's literally shaking. She summons every bit of strength she has left, grabs a bucket of ice, and dumps it right over his head before walking away like a boss. Of course, the ex loses his cool and finally shows his true, ugly colors. Meanwhile, the man of the hour, Seung-yoo, is still completely clueless that Ji-won is onto him. He's actually feeling great because he helped Ji-won speed up the contract signing for her movie. His colleagues are even gushing about them, calling them the perfect power couple and saying how lucky they've both been since they started working together. Hearing that, Seung-yoo can't wipe the grin off his face. The next day, Ji-won heads to a meeting at the publishing house. Just as she's about to step into the elevator, Seung-yoo suddenly appears, pulls her into a quiet stairwell, and confesses his feelings for her all over again. He leans in for a sweet romantic kiss, and even though she was so disappointed the day before, her logic completely loses the battle against her emotions. They share a deep embrace, but the moment is cut short when Seung-yoo gets a call from his boss and has to head out first. A moment later, the movie director walks down the stairs. Ji-won is mortified, terrified that he saw the whole thing. She tries to play it cool and act like nothing happened as she starts the meeting with him. Once it's all over, Ji-won and Seung-yoo sit down together for some tea, trying to find a moment of peace in the middle of all the chaos. Because Ji-won is constantly working with the movie director, Seung-yoo starts getting a bit petty. He's clearly jealous and even tries to trash talk the director, calling him a weirdo. But Ji-won is totally checked out. She doesn't even bother responding. Suddenly, Ji-won blurted out, "Who is Hae-ryung?" But just as Seung-yoo is about to answer, his voice snaps her back to reality. It turns out that whole confrontation was just in her head. She still hasn't found the guts to actually ask him about the girl. Lost in her own thoughts, Ji-won is barely present. Seung-yoo tries to cheer her up with some massive news. Her webtoon Psychotic Bride is going to be published as an exclusive book. Even though this is a huge win, Ji-won just mumbles a half-hearted response because her mind is elsewhere. Seung-yoo can tell something is off, but he decides not to push it. He suggests they go out to celebrate, but she shuts him down again. She claims she's busy, but really, she's just not in the mood for a date. As she walks home alone, her anxiety starts to spiral. She imagines Seung-yoo hugging another woman, and the fear of losing him starts to eat her alive. She's absolutely terrified of them breaking up. Meanwhile, our girl Ranju is having a rough time at home. She's watching TV, and seeing the new host of her old show just makes her feel bitter. She remembers the incident where she lost her cool right before recording, which is why she got replaced. Watching someone else in her spot makes her feel like a total failure, and she's spiraling into self-blame. Right then, Jun-young sends her a video of himself singing and dancing just to cheer her up. Seeing his dorkiness actually makes her laugh, and for a second, her stress melts away. But that happiness is short-lived. Later, while she's at work, she accidentally overhears her colleagues through an unmuted mic. They're gossiping about how the station is planning to fire her. Even though she's dying inside, Ranju forces a smile and pretends she didn't hear a thing, just to keep them from feeling awkward. Later that night, she goes on a blind date at A-young's restaurant with some rich guy. Jun-young has to watch the whole thing from the sidelines, and it's killing him. A-young tries to comfort him, but Jun-young is surprisingly confident. He tells her that Ranju is definitely only meeting that guy to make him jealous, so he's not even worried. After the date, the rich guy tries to pull a fast one and suggests they go to a hotel. Ranju sees right through his scumbag vibes, gets out of the car, and decides to walk back to the restaurant. She runs into Jun-young while he's taking out the trash. Seeing how upset she is, Jun-young doesn't say a word. He just pulls her into a warm hug and takes her home. While they're hanging out in her living room, Ranju finally works up the nerve to ask what happened that first night they met. She was so wasted she has no idea if she did something she'd regret. Jun-young fills her in. Apparently, after they got to the hotel, she pinned him against the wall in a very suggestive way. But nothing actually happened. Ranju ended up getting sick and throwing up everywhere, so Jun-young spent the entire night taking care of her. He even changed her clothes and folded her old ones neatly on the table. He tells her that as he watched her sleep, he realized he'd actually fallen for her. That's why he couldn't stop thinking about her and was so determined to win her over. Ranju is stunned by what a total gentleman he was. She accidentally blabs out, "Well, what about when the girl is sober?" This unexpected confession catches Jun-young off guard. He leans in and kisses her, and the two of them end up having a truly sweet and romantic night together. The next morning, Ranju wakes up and realizes she's not alone. She sees Jun-young lying next to her and screams, "I'm officially crazy!" The scream wakes him up, but he just smiles, pulls her back down for a cuddle, and tells her it's way too early to get up. A little while later, the two of them share a beautiful, happy breakfast together like a real couple. Even though Ranju is playing it cool and acting like she isn't catching feelings for her younger man, the smile on her face tells a completely different story. Jun-young, being the absolute sweetheart he is, tells her he loves her smile and vows to do whatever it takes to keep it there. His sweetness has Ranju grinning ear to ear even in professional meetings. Her coworkers are low-key weirded out because she looks like someone who is totally head over heels in love. Ranju tries to deny it, but she just can't wipe that smirk off her face. On the other hand, Ji-won has been ghosting Seung-yoo for days. Instead of dealing with him, she takes her movie deposit money and heads straight to A-young's restaurant to celebrate. She hands A-young her credit card and says she wants to order every single bottle of alcohol in the place. When she hears the story about A-young dumping a bucket of ice on her ex-boyfriend's head, Ji-won is floored. That's so unlike the A-young she knows. A-young tells her she's done playing the victim and is ready to be a strong, bad girl from now on. Seeing her friend's growth makes Ji-won feel like a bit of a failure in comparison, since she still can't seem to be that decisive in her own love life. Luckily, Ranju shows up just in time to kill the bad vibes, and the trio, plus Jun-young, starts a wild celebration. After the party, Ranju and Jun-young head home in a taxi, A-young heads back to the shop, and Ji-won takes the lonely walk home. She's stuck in her head, wondering, is she unable to let go because he's her first love, or is it because those sweet moments they shared were actually real? Meanwhile, Seung-yoo is losing his mind waiting for her to call. He's starting to doubt if her feelings for him were ever even genuine, and he's torn about what to do next. Both of them spend a miserable, restless night full of what-ifs. The next morning, Ji-won wakes up to a bunch of missed calls and texts from Seung-yoo. She starts beating herself up, thinking, "I'm 30 years old. How am I still such a hot mess?" She heads to A-young's for breakfast to clear her head, but that's when an uninvited guest walks in, Hae Ryung. Ji-won clocks that heart keychain on her bag. Instantly, the jig is up. Here's the plot twist. Back when Ji-won called Seung-yoo to say she didn't have a boyfriend, Hae Ryung was sitting right next to him in the car. She heard the whole thing and hated seeing the happy look on his face. She went full detective, found out about Ji-won, and tracked her down at the restaurant. Hae Ryung doesn't waste any time. She sits down and drops a bombshell. She claims she's been dating Seung-yoo for over a year and has zero plans of letting him go. She tells Ji-won to back off, basically gaslighting her by saying Seung-yoo isn't in love, he's just curious about his old flame. Ji-won keeps her poker face on and tells her that since they're colleagues, it's not that simple to just end things. But Hae Ryung is relentless. She asks Ji-won if she's really that oblivious or just in denial about her existence. Then she pulls a total power move. She shows Ji-won a call log from Seung-yoo and walks out like she just won the lottery. Ji-won is visibly shaken. She's terrified that everything Hae Ryung said might actually be true. A-young and Jun-young see the whole thing go down from the sidelines and feel terrible for her. To help her numb the pain, A-young takes Ji-won out for some fire-breathing, spicy rice cakes, hoping the burn on her tongue will distract her from the ache in her heart. Meanwhile, our leading man in the center of this love triangle, Seung-yoo, is deep in thought about Ji-won's weird behavior. But through all the confusion, he finally has an epiphany. His feelings for Ji-won are the real deal. After looking back at all their memories, Seung-yoo finally has his aha moment. He realizes he is truly, deeply in love with Ji-won. He doesn't waste a second and rushes over to her house. Just as he pulls up, Ji-won arrives home, and Seung-yoo goes all in. He confesses his love right then and there and pulls her into a sweet, romantic kiss. Ji-won tries to stay strong and tell herself to keep it together, but her logic is no match for her feelings. She just can't bring herself to walk away from him or the beautiful moments they've shared. They end up holding each other tight in a deep embrace. But once they're alone, Ji-won's walls go right back up. She acts completely cold toward him, even telling him that his presence is distracting her and messing up her work. Seung-yoo can take a hint. He realizes she's basically kicking him out. He leaves feeling totally crushed. He just finally figured out what real love is, and now he can't even be with the woman he loves. Still, he makes a vow to himself. He's not giving up on Ji-won. Meanwhile, Ji-won is hiding behind her second-story curtains, quietly watching him drive away. Ever since Hae Ryung showed up, she's known deep down that this relationship has to end. She's just been lying to herself because she's too scared to let go. Once he's gone, her house feels painfully empty. She tries to get back to work, but her mind is a mess. She can't even bring herself to draw the face of the male lead in her webtoon. To clear her head, she grabs a bottle of booze and heads down to the local laundromat. And who does she run into? The director. The two have a pretty awkward chat, and Ji-won finds out he actually lives in her neighborhood, meaning they're probably going to be bumping into each other a lot. When she asks why he never mentioned living nearby, he tells her he didn't want his personal life to interfere with work. That comment, though totally normal, hits Ji-won right in her sore spot. She starts projecting her own drama with Seung-yoo onto the situation. She gets defensive and snaps at the director, telling him he shouldn't be so nosy about other people's private lives before storming out. She feels like a total stranger to herself, hating how out of control her emotions are. But here's the kicker, the director isn't even mad. Instead of being annoyed by her outburst, he actually finds her interesting. Ji-won is so flustered she leaves her bag behind, and the director has to chase after her to give it back. He apologizes, clarifying that he wasn't trying to pry into her life. They officially bury the hatchet and decide to keep things professional and comfortable moving forward. Feeling a bit guilty for being so harsh, Ji-won sends him a quick apology text later that night. When the director reads it, he lets out a soft smile. It looks like the tension between them is finally gone. Over in Ranju's world, she's working out hard at home with her trainer to stay in shape. As a TV announcer, her image is everything. But this time, she's not her usual exhausted self. She's actually glowing with the radiance of someone who's loved. Her trainer is shocked by the change and even offers to set her up on a good blind date. But Ranju politely declines, using work as an excuse. Once the trainer leaves, Ranju collapses on the sofa, scrolling through sweet texts from Jun-young. She's so happy she can't stop smiling. They spend the next several days making incredible happy memories together. However, Jun-young is no fool. He can tell that Ranju is still terrified of fully opening up her heart. She hasn't asked him anything about his personal life, and she definitely hasn't said I love you yet. But Jun-young is the ultimate green flag. He encourages her to be brave and tells her he's willing to wait as long as it takes for her to let him in. But life isn't all romance and butterflies. The next day at work, the office is buzzing. Ranju hears rumors that the station is planning to fire her. The vibe is super awkward whenever she walks by. Her colleagues go silent and avoid eye contact. No one has the guts to tell her the truth to her face. There are even articles being published online about her resignation from the station, but Ranju is still completely in the dark, having no idea that her career is currently crashing down around her. Ranju doesn't waste a second and barges into the production room to demand answers about her job. Her colleagues are visibly uncomfortable and try to dodge her questions. Even though she's fuming after finding out that her final show is this coming Friday, talk about short notice, Ranju keeps it 100% professional. She actually suggests that they write a script for a special final farewell episode. She wants to personally thank the listeners who have stuck by her all these years. After wrapping up that emotional final recording, she walks out with her head held high. But let's be real, no woman going through such a public, embarrassing downfall could actually stay that calm. Ranju is just incredibly tough. Her younger guy, Jun-young. After hearing the news, he's already waiting for her outside the station. He offers to drive because he knows she's mentally and physically drained. To give Ranju a safe place to let it all out, he pulls into an underground parking garage and uses a foam sprayer to completely cover the car windows. It creates this temporary, private bubble where Ranju can finally break down and sob without the whole world watching. Meanwhile, Jun-young stands outside the car, quietly worrying about her. But while Ranju is letting it all out in the car, A-young is having a total nightmare of her own. She stays late at the restaurant to clean up, and just as she's finishing, her phone buzzes. She tries to reach for it, but it's a total disaster. In the struggle, she knocks over a glass, slips on a trash bag, and goes down hard. To make matters worse, she lands on the broken glass, and the shards slice into her hand. Lying there in a literal mess of popcorn, cherries, and blood, her phone lights up with another text from her toxic ex. It's the final straw. Feeling like the entire world is against her, A-young bursts into tears and calls Ji-won. Ji-won drops everything and sprints to A-young's place, completely missing Seung-yoo, who was just driving up to her house. They literally pass each other in the street, but don't see one another, a total missed connection. When Ji-won arrives, she finds A-young slumped on the floor, bleeding and surrounded by chaos. Ji-won immediately jumps into bestie mode, treating her wounds and then spending the entire night scrubbing the restaurant from top to bottom. It takes all her energy, and she doesn't finish until dawn. Meanwhile, back with Ranju, the cry session in the car really helped clear her head. When Jun-young drops her off, she finally sees how sincere his heart is. She decides to stop running and invites him to stay the night. For the first time, they really open up to each other. Lying in his arms, Ranju thanks him for being her rock during her darkest hour. She turns to him and gives him a deep, lingering kiss. No more hiding, no more holding back. The next morning, Ranju looks in the mirror and sees her eyes are totally swollen from all that crying. She thinks she looks ridiculous, but Jun-young is prepared. He pulls out his secret weapon, 2 chilled metal spoons for her to use as an ice compress. He even tells her she looks beautiful despite the puffy eyes. Ranju is just smitten, feeling so lucky to have someone who genuinely cares for her. Back at the restaurant, Ji-won and Ah-young finally have a moment to sit down and have a heart-to-heart. Ah-young confesses how lonely and frustrated she's been feeling lately, wishing she had someone to lean on. She then turns the focus to Ji-won and gives her a reality check. She tells her to stop running from Seung-yoo. Hiding isn't going to solve anything, and she needs to face the music. Ah-young drops a truth bomb about love, saying, "In this game, if you don't fight for what's yours, someone else will come and snatch it away." But even as she says it, Ah-young admits that giving advice is a lot easier than actually following it, especially when you're the one in the middle of the mess. After getting everything sorted out, Ji-won heads home and pulls out her webtoon sketches. Looking at them, she starts replaying all the little moments with Seung-yoo since they reunited, but she also can't stop thinking about that devastating rejection back in high school. She's stuck asking herself the ultimate question: can I really just leave Seung-yoo in the past? She doesn't have a solid answer yet, so for now, she decides the best move is to stop seeing him. She even goes as far as calling her editor Yoon to request a different manager just so she can avoid his face. But what Ji-won doesn't know is that a massive storm is heading her way. Hae Ryung has officially discovered the webtoon Like a Watercolor Painting online. She's absolutely fuming after realizing the male and female leads are clearly based on Seung-yoo and Ji-won. No one knows exactly what kind of twisted revenge she's planning, but one thing is for sure, she is not going to let this go. Oblivious to the danger, Ji-won meets up with the director at the laundromat to talk shop. The director gets surprisingly deep, asking her what happens after the end of Like a Watercolor Painting. He wants to know if the leads ever find their way back to each other as adults. Ji-won goes silent. She wasn't expecting such a personal question, and honestly, doesn't have an answer yet. After the meeting, the director drives home. On the way, he invites her to help rewrite the script for Psychotic Bride. Even though Ji-won feels like they aren't quite close enough yet to be creative partners, she ends up saying yes. The director is over the moon, until he sees Seung-yoo waiting there. The two men immediately lock eyes in a cold, hostile standoff. Ji-won is caught right in the middle of this alpha male tension and quickly says her goodbyes to the director. She looks at Seung-yoo and knows this isn't a business call. It's time to finally settle things. Turns out, earlier that day, Yoon had told Seung-yoo that Ji-won wanted a new manager. He knew right away she was upset and came over to demand the truth. He cuts straight to the chase. "You know about Hae Ryung, don't you?" Ji-won stays silent, which is basically a yes. Seung-yoo tries to explain himself, swearing that he's broken up with Hae Ryung and that he only loves Ji-won. But Ji-won isn't buying it. She asks him exactly when they broke up. His answer? He only ended it after meeting her again. Ji-won is hit with a wave of pure disappointment. To her, it feels like he's treating love like some kind of game. She realizes with a heavy heart that she was accidentally the third party in someone else's relationship. Even though Seung-yoo insists he loves her, the trust is gone. She tells him point blank, "No matter what you say now, I won't believe you." That is her final answer. She breaks up with him right there. Seung-yoo is devastated, but he has no choice but to walk away. Standing outside her door, he starts reflecting on his life and realizes that he is the real problem. See, Seung-yoo has always been the popular pretty boy with a gentle personality. Since he was a kid, girls have always chased him and he got used to the attention. Even when he had a girlfriend, he never learned how to say no to gifts or attention from other women. He never understood the power or the necessity of a firm rejection. In fact, his whole relationship with Hae Ryung started because of that indecisiveness. He never actually loved her, but when she pursued him, he just went along with it. Their relationship was basically forced and hollow until the moment he found Ji-won again. We finally learned that their reunion wasn't just luck. Seung-yoo had stumbled upon Like a Watercolor Painting at a publishing house, noticed it didn't have a manager yet, and specifically requested to represent it just so he could find his way back to her. Ever since finding Ji-won again, Seung-yoo's heart has been in overdrive. For the first time in his life, he's actually feeling what it's like to be truly in love. But now, with Ji-won officially ending things, he has no idea how to convince her that his feelings are real. After years of being the one who breaks hearts, he's finally paying the price for his own immaturity. Seung-yoo is in a dark place, so he hits up an old friend for drinks to drown his sorrows. His buddy is shocked to see him so hung up on someone Seung-yoo's always been the type to play it cool and stay detached with girls. But Seung-yoo admits it. This time, he's really fallen for her. For the first time, he realizes that the aftertaste of alcohol is actually incredibly bitter. He drinks until he's completely wasted, and his friend has to call a taxi to get him home. The next morning, Seung-yoo shows up at work acting like everything is normal. The director, who's sitting right there, mentions that Ji-won requested a new manager and asks if Seung-yoo knows anything about it. Seung-yoo stays stone-cold silent. Sensing the tension, the director tries to clear the air, insisting that he and Ji-won are strictly colleagues. But Seung-yoo cuts him off mid-sentence. It's clear he's in no mood for explanations. After the meeting wraps up, Yoon suggests a group dinner. Ji-won tries to bail immediately, But Yoon insists that since she and the director are going to be working closely, they need some team bonding time. Backed into a corner, Ji-won has no choice but to go. Just as the group is heading out, the sky opens up with a massive downpour. Everyone is panicking because they forgot their umbrellas. Suddenly, Seung-yoo appears out of nowhere with an umbrella and suggests that Ji-won walk with him. But then, the situation takes a toxic turn. Hae-ryung happens to be passing by and sees them. She marches right up, grabs Seung-yoo's arm, and introduces herself as his girlfriend. And what does Seung-yoo do? Absolutely nothing. He stays silent, no denial, no stepping away. Ji-won is standing there, completely stunned and disgusted. To her, this is the final proof that Seung-yoo is exactly the kind of trash guy she feared he was. If things weren't awkward enough, Hae-ryung actually invites herself to the dinner. During the meal, she starts spilling the tea, telling everyone that Seung-yoo and Ji-won were each other's first loves. This makes Yoon suspicious. She wonders if that's the real reason Seung-yoon fought to be Ji-won's manager. Ji-won, feeling the heat, tries to play it off by saying their story is as dramatic as a K-drama. The mood at the table hits rock bottom. Hae-ryung keeps acting like she's marking her territory, saying she's not worried about Ji-won because she trusts Seung-yoon's logic. Ji-won politely remarks that meeting again after all these years was just an interesting experience, but Seung-yoon isn't playing along. He speaks up and says that for him, it was actually a moment of pure happiness because he'd been waiting to see her again for a long time. The whole table is cringing. His actual girlfriend is sitting right there, and he's basically confessing his love for another woman. Hae-ryung looks like she's about to explode, but she's powerless at the moment. The director then brings up the management swap again, but Seung-yoon shuts it down. He says there's no need to change managers now because everyone knows the truth about their relationship anyway, so they can just work together openly. Ji-won is fuming. She's finally seen what she thinks is his true face, a man who just loves to play with people's emotions. As soon as the party is over, she storms off. Seung-yoo chases after her, trying to explain his behavior, but Ji-won is completely done. She tells him straight to his face, "You're treating me like a puppet while you're still messing around with Hae-ryung." Seung-yoo tries to blame the situation on Hae-ryung being immature and difficult, but Ji-won screams back that he is the one who is completely clueless. Seung-yoo is still stuck in this endless loop between two women, and his inability to draw a clear line leaves Ji-won completely heartbroken. She tells him straight up, even though she tried her best to understand him, she just can't do it anymore. She's exhausted, and she even admits she started to loathe herself for loving him. With that, Ji-won walks away, leaving Seung-yoo standing there with a heavy sigh, totally clueless on how to fix the mess he's made. The director sees Ji-won looking miserable as she walks by and decides she needs some cheering up. He brings her to his private home cinema and shows her his very first film, a story about his own breakup with an ex that mirrors exactly what Ji-won is going through. Ji-won is genuinely impressed, calling it a deep and soul-searching piece of art that deserves way more recognition than it got. She finally realizes why the director has been so invested in her love life. It's because they've walked the same painful path. On the ride home, the director asks her, "What do you think is the biggest difference between your 20s and your 30s?" Ji-won's first guess is physical stamina, but the director drops a funny, relatable truth bomb. The biggest difference is being able to actually focus on your work right after a breakup. Ji-won bursts out laughing, feeling touched that he's trying so hard to make her smile. They give each other a pep talk, hoping to turn their shared sadness into creative fuel. For the next few days, Ji-won goes full work mode to drown out her thoughts of Seung-yoo. She gets her spark back and starts drawing the male lead perfectly again. Plus, her wish comes true. Yoon is officially her new manager. Life starts to feel normal again, moving forward without Seung-yoo in the picture. Everyone else is moving on too. Ron-ju has Jun-young by her side, and A-young has finally scrubbed that toxic ex out of her life. The three besties meet up to try a new dish A-young cooked, and even though it tastes terrible, they're just happy to be together. But life is like a play, and just when Ji-won thinks the drama is over, the plot thickens. She and the director are leaving the laundromat when their phones buzz at the exact same time. The news is a total nightmare. Someone has posted a malicious expose online, accusing Ji-won of being a homewrecker who stole another woman's man. The post blows up and goes viral instantly. Ji-won's world starts crumbling all over again. She rushes to the publishing house, only to walk into a hornet's nest. Her colleagues are huddled together, whispering and debating if the rumors are true. The phones won't stop ringing. Angry fans are demanding the company stop working with Ji-won, and the comment sections are flooded with pure vitriol. Overwhelmed with shame, Ji-won tries to bolt for the door, but she's intercepted by Seung-yoo. He drags her up to the rooftop to talk. Ji-won is so hurt, she lashes out, accusing Seung-yoo of being the one who posted it as some sick form of revenge for her breaking up with him. She thinks their whole reunion was just a setup for him to destroy her. Seung-yoo is speechless, unable to even defend himself against that level of pain. He looks her in the eye and asks, "Do you even believe in yourself? Right now, your life's work is being attacked. Aren't you even going to try and protect it?" Ji-won has no answer. She just storms off in a rage. As she wanders the streets alone, his words echo in her head. She starts to wonder if she really doesn't trust herself. But here's the real tea. Seung-yoo knows exactly who's behind this. It's Hae-ryung. This is her twisted revenge for him dumping her. You see, after that awkward dinner party, Seung-yoo finally manned up. He drove Hae-ryung home and officially ended things, making it crystal clear that Ji-won is the only woman he loves. Hae-ryung's jealousy finally boils over, and she chooses the most toxic path possible, a full-on smear campaign against Ji-won. After the post goes viral, Seung-yoo confronts Hae-ryung one last time to say a final goodbye. He actually thanks her not for the drama, but for finally letting him go so he can move on. Meanwhile, Ji-won completely vanishes. She goes off the grid, leaving Ron-ju and A-young spiraling with worry. They're blowing up her phone, with Ron-ju even texting her to please not do anything reckless. After days of radio silence, Ji-won finally drags her exhausted self to A-young's restaurant. Seeing her friend looking like a ghost, A-young tries her best to comfort her, telling her that none of this is her fault. A-young even mentions that she and Jun-young have been busy taking screenshots of all the hate comments so they can sue every single person for defamation. But Ji-won drops a heartbreaking truth. She feels like the internet isn't entirely wrong. She admits she knew deep down that Seung-yoo had a girlfriend, but she let her feelings take the wheel anyway. She was blinded by love, and now the guilt is eating her alive. A-young can only watch helplessly as her best friend falls apart. When Ji-won heads home, she just wants to be alone. On her way, she runs into the director. He'd been worried sick since the rumors broke and was out looking for her. Just as Ji-won is about to cross the street, she gets a notification that feels like a physical blow. Her webtoon, like a watercolor painting, is officially being pulled down. It's like the universe is ganging up on her. The director sees her devastation and doesn't even dare to speak. He just stands there, watching her quietly. Ji-won is so numb and broken that she doesn't even notice he's right there as she trudges back to her house. Waiting at her doorstep is Seung-yoo. He tells her he's managed to get all the hate comments and the original rumor post deleted. But to Ji-won, it's too little too late. Deleting a post doesn't delete the fact that it happened. She lashes out at him, blaming him for not being honest about Hae-ryung from the start. If he had just told the truth, she never would have fallen for him again, or ended up in this nightmare. Seung-yoo hangs his head, finally admitting he was wrong. But Ji-won is done. She tells him to never show his face again and bolts inside, collapsing on the floor in tears. Outside, Seung-yoo is left standing in the dark, crying silently. Just like that, their love story ends in a tragedy once again. On a brighter note, Ron-ju is finally turning a corner thanks to Jun-young's constant support. It's the day of her very last broadcast for Ron-ju's dream world. After today, she's officially out of a job. But being the pro she is, she stays completely dedicated. She keeps a smile on her face and delivers a flawless final performance. When she gets home, Jun-young is already there, having cooked a special dinner just for her. Ron-ju is blown away by his cooking and eats happily, feeling so grateful that no matter how hard life gets outside, she has someone waiting for her at home. The next day, Ron-ju gathers all her courage and heads to the broadcasting station. She meets with the director and tells them she wants to try hosting an educational program, something she's turned down for the last 3 years. She knows it'll be a challenge, especially with her stage fright and trouble looking at the camera, but she's determined to face her fears and overcome them. After the storm finally passes, everyone is just trying to find the courage to start over. As for Ji-won, after locking herself away for a few days, she finally decides it's time to stand up. She goes over to her storyboard, rips down every single old sketch, and prepares for a total reset. But there's still one thing weighing on her conscience she feels like she owes Hae-ryung, a sincere apology for her part in that messy love triangle. Ji-won goes to meet her and notices that since the breakup, Hae-ryung has chopped off her long hair and dyed it a bold red. It takes Ji-won straight back to her own past. Years ago, when she got dumped, she also spent a day crying in the rain before cutting off her own hair. She truly feels for what Hae-ryung is going through. But Hae-ryung isn't ready to play nice yet. She's still full of resentment toward Ji-won for ruining her happiness. Ji-won sincerely hopes that one day, Hae-ryung can let go of that anger. She takes full responsibility, admitting she was the one in the wrong, and begging Hae-ryung not to doubt herself or feel like any of this was her fault. It might sound hard to believe, but this is the most honest Ji-won has ever been. She admits how hard it is to let go of someone you love, which is exactly why she stayed with Seung-yoo even when she knew better. Hae-ryung is still bitter by the end of the talk, clearly still trapped in her own grief, but Ji-won just hopes she can eventually find her way back to herself. As for Ji-won, it looks like she's finally found her spark again. After the meeting, she heads over to A-young's restaurant. A-young immediately pulls her into a worried hug, but Ji-won is calm. She just says she's starving and wants to eat. Jun-young serves up a plate of delicious-looking spicy rice cakes, and even though they're burning hot, the girls love it. A-young is so impressed she even promises Jun-young a raise. Feeling like herself again, Ji-won calls up the director to meet at the laundromat. She's ready to pour everything she has into her work. The director is clearly happy to see her, and his feelings for her are becoming more obvious by the second. Ji-won asks him point blank, since the lead actor dropped out, does he still want to make the movie with her? He just gives her a gentle smile and says, "We'll just find a new lead, it's no big deal." Then he hands Ji-won a comic book. It's her very first winning work from years ago. When she asks how he has it, he finally admits he's been a loyal fan of hers for a long time. That gives Ji-won the boost she needs. She takes the comic home and starts flipping through the pages, looking at the male lead and remembering her first love with Seung-yoo. But this time, she's ready to finish the story on her own terms. She takes a deep breath and draws the final chapter of Like a Watercolor Painting, along with a heartfelt apology to her readers for the long wait. To celebrate the completion of Ji-won's masterpiece and Ron-ju's massive success with her new show, A-young throws a little party at the restaurant. The three best friends and Jun-young cheer for their wins. Ji-won gets totally wasted and starts dancing around on the grass outside. Her friends follow her, shocked to see her so full of life while drunk. Suddenly, her toxic ex-boyfriend shows up. Instead of shrinking away, Ji-won literally smacks him over the head, calls him a stinky rat for having the nerve to show his face, and just struts away. The girls are in awe. Ji-won isn't the shy, timid girl she used to be. Everything is back on track. Ji-won is working with Yoon again, and even though they still bicker over creative ideas, they're a solid team. Ron-ju has officially debuted as the host of her new show. She's conquered her stage fright and is now a total pro. A-young is still running the squad's favorite hangout spot. Today, she's testing out a new cocktail recipe, and Ron-ju and Ji-won are the official taste testers. To their surprise, A-young actually nailed it. It's amazing. They start a small celebration, but this time there's a new face in the mix, Director Cha. Everyone is laughing, drinking, and just enjoying each other's company. Life will always throw them curveballs, but as long as they have each other, they know they can get through anything. And that's the end of our story. Thanks for watching.